watching the news on KARE 11 with Kim Inslee, Frank Vassalero, and Jonathan Uhas. This is KARE 11 News, First Edition.
I don't foresee going ever back in there.
Coming up on First Edition, more rain and more heartbreak in northwest Minnesota. Now residents there prepare for floods worse than what nearly destroyed their homes 2 weeks ago. Plus, residents in Arizona can only hope for rain as wildfires merge into a 50-mile-wide mega blaze. And by all accounts, Osama bin Laden is alive and well and planning more attacks on the United States. Good morning, everyone. I am Brad Woodard, filling in for Kim Inslee this morning, and we're joined by Don Moldenhauer, who has a steamy forecast for us.
Another couple days of this heat and humidity for us, Brad, it looks like, but later in the week we will see temperatures cool down a little bit. This morning, though, we're watching for some thunderstorms. They are just up to the north of the metro, and it looks like we'll see them move through during the morning hours and then just go right back into the steam bath for the afternoon. We're starting off with temperatures in the 70s. It's 77 right now, and if it doesn't drop below 76, we'll set a record warm low this morning. So another mild start to the day. Winds are out of the south at 10. The dew point is at 65. The forecast, scattered storms early through the day, and then hazy, hot, and humid the rest of the day. High temperatures 87 to 92. Tonight we could see some thunderstorms redevelop. If they do, they could be a bit on the heavy side. Low temperatures from 70 to 75. So again, Brad, a couple days here of hot and humid weather, and then it cools off toward the middle part of the week.
And probably some storms, too. Right?
Yeah, and then the good thing is for everybody that's having all these flooding problems, it should dry out in the middle part of the week as well, but a little heavy rain here and there this morning.
Good deal. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Well, the last things residents in northwestern Minnesota needed over the weekend was more rain, but that's exactly what they got. 12 inches in just 12 hours. The Wild Rice River is rising rapidly in Norman and Monoman counties for the second time in 2 weeks. It has already damaged more than 100 homes and is threatening hundreds more. KARE 11's Rhonda Kinchlow is in Monoman this morning with the latest. Good morning to you, Rhonda.
Good morning, Brad. It's pretty quiet this morning following an all-nighter in which volunteers and residents of the city of Monoman tried to save the city. They can say this morning they did just that. The sandbagging has finally come to an end, and according to many of the residents that we spoke with who worked through the night, the worst is finally over. The sandbagging is in, but not without residents. They did not give up, nor did they let up as they tried to save the city. They also brought in some volunteers from neighboring cities to help out in that effort. Once the river, however, began to rise and swell, the decision was made to sandbag and to save whatever they possibly could. In many instances, homes had to be the casualties in all this, and reportedly more than a homes were lost. But following the Herculean effort to sandbag as well as build temporary emergency dikes, there was some good news.
We are pretty sure the river has crested, and what they're doing now is just shoring up this dike to make sure that we don't know how long the water is going to be on the dike, and we want to make sure it doesn't get soft.
Weather-wise, we can tell you overnight a lot of thunderstorms and a lot of lightning. There was some lightning about 15 minutes ago still east of here. We also had a lot of rain overnight. We don't know if that's still going to be in the forecast for today. We spoke with the Monoman County Sheriff's Department today. At its peak, the river hit at 21 feet. They say so far in the last couple of hours they've already seen signs that the river, the waters, are going back down. Brad?
That's certainly good news. All right, Rhonda, thank you very much. Well, downstream and nearby Ada, streets and houses remain dry, but may not be for long. The Wild Rice River is expected to reach a record crest there tomorrow. Some people have already left their homes just days after returning following the last floods 2 weeks ago. National Guard troops are racing against the clock to shore up a permanent levee to save the town. In a move to recover losses from bad weather and other recent problems, the nation's largest insurer has cut its property insurance business in Minnesota. Last year, State Farm collected $152 million in homeowners insurance premiums for Minnesota, but it paid out more than $223 million in claims. To make up the difference, State Farm has stopped selling policies for condos, apartments, and other rentals and stopped covering mold damage. Well, 2 monster wildfires in eastern Arizona have now merged into a 50-mile-long wall and has forced an entire town to evacuate. Property damage continues to grow as the mega blaze bears down on the town of Show Low. The number of evacuees now totals nearly 25,000. Many of them are staying in shelters.
It makes you real depressed. You just want to leave and stuff. And you don't want to stay here because you feel uncomfortable.
Firefighters have saved 1,000 homes, but the blaze has destroyed 185 others. The fire has charred some 300,000 acres, and fire officials say it could easily scorch 1 million acres. Time now is 5:05, and according to a new audio tape broadcast on an Arab television network, Osama bin Laden is alive and well. The message comes from the al-Qaeda terrorist network, which says bin Laden also is planning new attacks on U.S. targets. An al-Qaeda spokesperson says bin Laden will make a televised address to the Muslim world soon.
He's had a history of hiding, lying low, and then striking again. But until we see some forensic evidence that he's dead, I assume he's alive.
According to the tape, al-Qaeda carried out the deadly April attack on a Jewish synagogue in Tunisia. At this point, the Bush administration is not commenting on the tape. Israeli helicopter gunships have attacked targets in the Gaza Strip, killing at least 6 Palestinians. The helicopters fired rockets at 2 vehicles, killing everyone inside. Palestinian officials confirm that 2 were members of the militant group Hamas. The strike came just hours after Israeli forces took up positions around the headquarters of Palestinian President Yasser Arafat. Israeli officials say their occupation there will not end until Palestinian terrorists' attacks end. Now we're going to check in with Don Moldenhauer once again to see what it's looking like today. It's already nice and warm and humid.
Yep, there's lots of moisture in the air, Brad. Some of that moisture fueling thunderstorms this morning. We've got one batch moving into the Twin Cities, and we'll see some more a little bit later on as we head on into the early morning hours. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. Partly cloudy and 77 degrees. It's all the cooler it got overnight. Winds are out of the south at 10. The dew point very sticky at 65 degrees, and the relative humidity is at 66%. Here's a look at temperatures across the area, and you can see there is a front in place just up to the north of us because it cools off quite a bit on the other side of the front. 72 degrees in Princeton right now, 75 Osceola, Wisconsin, but up north of the front, it is 63 degrees right now in Aiken, and over in Cloquet, they've got a breeze coming in off of Lake Superior, quite a bit cooler there with the temperature at 55 degrees. So the thunderstorms are developing along this front, and it looks like the best chance for rain today will be just along the northern edge of the metro in the morning, then on over into northwestern Wisconsin into the later morning hours. You can see the thunderstorms moving along here with some more thunderstorms developing now and moving on in from eastern South Dakota. So we'll see those track through over the next couple of hours. Then as we head through the day, it's probably going to be just too warm for us to see too much thunderstorm redevelopment. The atmosphere will likely be capped, as we call it, through most of the day. Good thing, because there's a lot of moisture around to fuel thunderstorms. 64 on the dew point right now, as far north as Brainerd, so plenty of humidity is in the air out there. It's going to be sticky right on through the afternoon. The weather map shows that front slowly nudging north throughout the day. There is a cool front off to the west of us. That will bring us some relief around here along about the middle part of the week. So in the meantime, the forecast for today looks like this. We'll see scattered storms early today, then hazy, hot, and humid, and I think we'll stay mainly dry through the rest of the day, 87 to 92 on the high temperatures. For tonight, we could see some storms redevelop. Any of them do. That could be a little bit on the heavy side with low temperatures from 70 to 75 degrees. And then for tomorrow, we'll drop the temperatures just a notch because I think we could get into some thunderstorms again in the afternoon, high near 88. For Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, less humid, drier weather with temperatures slipping back into the 80s. And Brad, we should see a high right now this time of the year around 81 degrees. So we're way above normal, but it'll get a little bit closer to what it should be later on in the week.
Either we're above normal or below normal.
We're never close to it, at least this year. It doesn't seem that way.
That's right. It's been a strange year. Thanks a lot, Don.
Okay.
Well, the time now is 5:08. It's still to come on First Edition. The Twins try to distance themselves even more from second place Chicago. And up next in the Extra, the 30th anniversary of Title IX. We'll look at how the landmark law has put women's sports on the map, but at the same time has put men's sports on the chopping block. We measure the impact next in the Extra. It was the greatest victory in the history of women's sports, the passage of Title IX 30 years ago today. In this morning's Extra, we measure the impact of the historic law. Title IX became a federal law in 1972. It requires schools to treat girls just like boys when it comes to sports. Millions of young women are now playing on teams that didn't exist before Title IX. At the same time, however, athletic departments have cut hundreds of men's teams in the name of gender equity. Carol Evans' Alan Costantini looks at the law as well as its sometimes controversial legacy.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore.
Tennis in high school was my passion. I hung out at the tennis courts like kids today hang out at the mall.
It was 1972. Helen Reddy was roaring on the pop charts, but St. Cloud Tech senior Peggy Brendan had been banned from the tennis courts.
There were no girls' teams. There were 0 opportunities for girls.
So Peggy Brendan wanted to play on the boys' team, but the Minnesota High School League said no.
Our rules said girls are eligible for girls' teams and boys for boys' teams. Didn't account for Peggy Brendan's and others who were in that cusp of saying, I want it right now.
The girls' sports leagues we take for granted now were still years in the future.
We were talking about whether girls should sweat in public and whether it was what kind of uniforms they should wear and could they play full-court basketball.
A frustrated Peggy Brendan wrote a letter.
I wrote the Minnesota Civil Liberties Union and asked if they would take my case.
The poignant postscript, please hurry, I'm a senior.
Well, what I remember about it is how much it changed my mind about what should be happening to women in high school athletics.
The High School League and Peggy's school told Federal District Court Judge Miles Lord that letting Peggy play would actually damage the incubation of girls' sports programs. Judge Lord wasn't buying it.
I was not only surprised but disgusted.
He ordered Peggy onto the boys' team.
It's the proudest thing I ever did.
Peggy played 5 varsity matches.
I won 3 and I lost 2, and I earned my high school letter that year. That's one of my proudest athletic achievements, far and away.
The swift justice so impressed the bold teenager that the law became her new passion. She is now Judge Peggy Brendan, a workers' compensation administrative law judge. A month after Peggy won her lawsuit, Congress passed Title IX, guaranteeing girls and boys equal opportunity.
The explosion since Title IX and since '72 when I played in girls' athletics, I think just is incredible.
Young women flocked to newly created teams. Federal and NCAA reports confirm that there are now more women's college teams than men's, although male athletes still outnumber the women, mainly because of football. But as powerful a force as Title IX has been for women, it has had a dark side for many men. Think of this apple pie as scholastic and university athletics before Title IX. Pretty much all one flavor, all men. Then in comes Title IX and women, like this blueberry pie. Now the proportionality clause of Title IX says if half of your students are women, then half of your athletes should be women, and the same with scholarships and budgets. So we'd have 2 equal pies and everybody's happy, right? Not quite. Many schools argue there just wasn't enough dough in the bakery to fund that big apple pie for the men and fund a same-size big blueberry pie for the women. Besides, there were a lot of men playing sports. So, in order to comply with Title IX's proportionality, most schools didn't double the size of the pie. They just threw the women into the mix. And then the men found out they didn't necessarily all fit in the pie.
Title IX is a good law. If you read the law, it's pretty simple. It says no person because of sex can be discriminated against. It's pretty simple.
Hold on a minute. Isn't that U of M wrestling coach Jay Robinson, the man the media always says is opposed to Title IX?
There's nothing wrong with the law. It's like most laws. It's the interpretation of the law where the problem is.
Robinson objects to schools using proportionality to cut men's teams.
If 100 women come out, they all get to play sports. But if 1,000 boys want to come out and play sports, you can only have 100. So the total interest of the women is met, and only 10% of the boys are met. That makes no sense.
In the last 20 years, half of men's collegiate sports lost teams, with wrestling being taken down the hardest. More than 170 groups of grapplers got the axe. Attorney and women's sports activist Rayla Allison is sympathetic.
You know, I think Jay Robinson has a valid statement and argument. The purpose of Title IX was to create opportunities. Rather than cut a men's sports, we've created no more opportunities for women. We've just played with the numbers.
The puzzling thing is, Title IX doesn't require proportionality quotas in order to be in compliance.
Another way is to show a history of continuing expansion of opportunities for the underrepresented gender.
In other words, making a sincere, good faith effort to meet the interests of female athletes. In the 30 years since Title IX became law, no school has been penalized for non-compliance, but they fear losing federal grants.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you want to take the chance? No. There's no president that would take that chance. Nobody's going to take that chance. But all you'd have to do is add another sentence and say you can't drop any men's sports to come in compliance. That solves it.
Make no mistake, women are not apologizing for the impact of Title IX.
It stands as a marker for the time when our country said it's time to provide women and girls with their full opportunity.
Despite the gains, the programs are hardly equal.
Boys and men have continued to receive greater funding than girls and women.
But there is a lot to roar about today.
To me, it's like a mom and a dad who have a son, firstborn, who wants a new car. They've got to make tough budgeting decisions if they've got a daughter that's following a couple years behind. They can't go out and buy him an expensive sports car and say, daughter, you got to walk.
The women aren't walking anymore. Alan Costantini, KARE 11 News.
In an attempt to help stop the cutting of men's teams in the name of Title IX, there is a bill in Congress this month that would create new academic scholarships for student athletes in non-revenue sports for men and women. The $10,000 awards would be named for House Speaker Dennis Hastert, who is a former wrestling coach. In the news, the nation's largest insurer is cutting its property insurance business. State Farm says it's dropping its coverage to recover losses from bad weather and other recent problems. As a result, the company has stopped selling policies for condos, apartments, and other rentals. And Representative Harry Mayers of White Bear Lake and Senator Dean Johnson of Wilmer say current and prospective Twins owners want a new ballpark in Minneapolis. Mayers and Johnson say the city should hold a referendum. Mayor R.T. Ryback says the city is ready to be a ballpark partner just as soon as Hennepin County can join the team. Time now is 5:19, and coming up on First Edition, the latest on the sudden death of St. Louis Cardinals pitcher Darryl Kile. And the Twins try to pad their first-place lead even more against Philadelphia. Highlights are next. But first, here's Don.
Brett, it looks like we're headed for our third day in a row of 90-degree temperatures here in the Twin Cities. Another hot and humid afternoon is in store. It's already warm out there, 77 degrees with mostly cloudy skies right now. By late in the day, about 90, a few thunderstorms around this morning.
In business news this morning, the president of Amtrak says his railroad will begin shutting down on Wednesday unless it gets $200 million from Congress to keep the trains running. The Bush administration says it wants to keep the system going, but wants to see extensive management and operating reforms first. A shutdown would hit the Northeast the hardest, where Amtrak carries about 65,000 passengers a day. And don't expect other airlines to follow Northwest's lead after Northwest cut ties with Priceline.com. Over the weekend, Northwest decided to stop selling discounted tickets to the website because of concerns about Priceline's business model. Priceline allows travelers to bid their own price on such things as airline tickets, rental cars, and hotel rooms. Well, turning now to sports, the first-place Twins begin a big series tonight at the Dome against the second-place Chicago White Sox. Also, doctors detail their findings in the sudden death of baseball pitcher Darryl Kile. Here's Tim McNiff with more.
Good morning, everybody. The preliminary reports are in on the autopsy report on St. Louis Cardinals pitcher Darryl Kile, with the probable cause of Kyle's death being blamed on arterial blockage. Dr. Edmund Donahoe of the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office says a final autopsy report could take 4 to 6 weeks because he still wants to study the, quote, drug aspect. But Donahoe gave no indication yesterday that drugs or illegal substances were involved in Kyle's death. Instead, Donahoe says the likely cause of death is an 80 to 90% blockage of a coronary artery. This was the scene last night in Chicago, where with Darryl Kyle's number on the scoreboard, the flags hanging at half-mast, and with Kyle's jersey hanging in their dugout, the Cards resumed their series with the Cubs. Jamin Simon-Tachi starts on the mound in place of Kile and surrenders this early homer to Chicago's Alex Gonzalez as the Cubs go on to beat Kyle's Cards 8-3. Minnesota Twins finishing up their road trip in Philly. Corey Koski just 2 for 29 on the road, but he gets all of this fourth-inning offering from Phil's starter Randy Wolf. It's Koski's 7th home run, and it gives the Twins a 1-0 advantage. Johan Santana started strong, but after a couple of fourth-inning walks, Scott Rowland singles to bring in Bobby Abreu and tie the ball game at 1-1. That brings Tony Fiore out of the bullpen, and Fiore fans Pat Burrell with the bases loaded, getting the Twins out of a huge jam. Top of the 6th, Dustin Moore connects off Wolf. Like Koski, Moore crushes it. It's Dustin's 6th, and the solo shot puts the Twins back in front 2-1. Fiore pitches 3 innings of shutout ball, and Torrey Hunter, who enters the game late, finishes the Phillies with his team-leading 17th home run. The 3-shot run shot providing the final margin in a 5-1 Twins victory. The Twins taking 2 of 3 in Philly and 5 of 9 on the road against National League competition. The Twins are back at home. They're going to open up a 7-game homestand with a big 4-game series against the White Sox. The Twins leading the White Sox by 6 games in the AL Central. We'll have more on that tonight at 6 and again at 10 o'clock. Right now, however, here's a look at the rest of yesterday's scores.
Well, you got that right. Taking a look at our St. Paul sky cam, a beautiful shot of St. Paul skyline this morning. And what is a very hot day already. What's the deal?
We have a warm front north of us, so northern Minnesota has not been too bad over the weekend. It's been muggy, but boy, down in the southern half of the state, a steam bath, and that's going to be the case again today. Some of this steam is fueling some thunderstorms this morning. Live Doppler 11 showing scattered thunder showers across the area. One batch now moving into the northwest metro, coming right down Interstate 94. They're heading into Maple Grove, and there are some more from Big Lake up through Princeton and some more up just to the north of North Branch. So some more coming through as we head through the day. The forecast looks like this. Expect to see temperatures top out around 90 today. And most of the thunderstorms will be this morning. Then tonight, some more thunderstorms could redevelop, 74. A break, and then some more thunderstorms could redevelop tomorrow at 88. And when you think the record is broken here, there will be a change by about Wednesday. A little cooler, a little drier.
Probably below average.
No, actually, we'll get a little closer to average. But no, we're not going to do the full swing this time.
All right. It's been kind of an abnormal year so far. Thanks a lot. Well, there's much more ahead in the next half hour of First Edition, including more on the flooding in northwest Minnesota. Also, new information this morning regarding Osama bin Laden and the inner workings of al-Qaeda. USA Today has that story coming up at 5:56. Plus, we'll look at how your newspaper just won't be the same now that the woman who penned the Ann Landers advice column has passed away. Find out what's next. And the Twin Cities family has a giant hole in their home, and insurance isn't paying to fix it. We'll have an important lesson for homeowners when we come right back in 2 minutes.
You're watching the news on KARE 11 with Kim Inslee, Frank Vassalero, and Jonathan Uhas. This is KARE 11 News, First Edition.
Even more rain in parts of Minnesota that do not need it. Coming up, see how residents in Mahnomen County are bracing for the worst in a live report. Also, what does your homeowner insurance cover? Well, as one family found out, not everything you might expect.
And I'm meteorologist Don Moldenhauer in for Jonathan Uhas. We've had over a half a foot of rain in the Twin Cities this month, and this morning there are more thunderstorms on the radar.
For the moment, unless you live in the northwest metro, roads are in pretty good driving condition, maybe wet up in that part of the woods, but we have a rush hour. It's time to go back to work, and we'll talk traffic coming up.
And firefighters are battling a blaze that keeps growing and now threatens an entire town. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to First Edition. I am Brad Woodard, filling in for Kim Inslee, who has the morning off. Also, Jonathan Uhas is off this morning, but lucky for us, Don Moldenhauer is standing by to tell us about a steamy forecast.
Another steamy forecast, Brad, and more rain. We've, as I said, had over a half a foot of rain so far this month. And if we get another half-inch of rain, we'll get in the top 10 for the rainiest June ever. So we'll have to watch for that. But we do have some thunderstorms on the radar this morning. And we'll take a look at the forecast for the rest of the day, which includes thunderstorms mainly in the morning hours. It's already 77 degrees right now. Lunchtime, 85 degrees, and at dinner time, we should be right around 90. I think most of the afternoon should be dry. It'll just simply be too hot to get those thunderstorms to fire up again this afternoon. So, Brad, a couple of hot days in store, and then a little bit cooler weather later in the week, and we'll look at that coming up.
We'll be looking forward to that, sir.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. And the weather continues to top the news. This morning, more flooding in northwestern Minnesota has forced more residents to leave their homes. For the second time in 2 weeks, the Wild Rice River is rising rapidly in Norman and Mahnomen counties. This is after a foot of rain fell over the weekend in just 12 hours' time. KARE 11's Rhonda Kinchlow is in Mahnomen this morning, where hundreds of residents there are bracing for the worst flooding in that city's history. Good morning to you, Rhonda.
Good morning, Brad. Well, I can tell you that late last night, the Monoman County Sheriff officials began getting the word out that the worst was over and that the Wild Rice River had crested at 21 feet. That's very good news for residents and volunteers who worked throughout the night as well as the morning to try and sandbag as well as save the city of Monoman. Late Sunday afternoon, the fast-moving current showed no sign of letting up, claiming homes along the way and forcing a no-travel advisory for all 1,200 residents in the city of Monoman. But to save it, they had to bag it, pouring pounds of sand into bags to shore up the walls to stave off the mighty floodwaters.
Most of the people are frustrated because it's almost impossible to predict the height of the water.
The only thing we don't know is how long it's going to hold at this level. That's a problem because if it holds for a long time with these clay dikes with no plastic on them or no grass on them, they get soft in a hurry. So.
We can tell you it was a pretty tough effort yesterday. Just how bad did it get? At one time you could see an RV floating down the Wild Rice River. That's pretty bad, but things are a lot better this morning. 21 feet it crested. There are already signs that it is receding at this time, but here's another word of caution. The water has to go somewhere, and it's moving into the city of Ada. If you'll recall, just 2 weeks ago, that city was hit with its own flood. Back to you.
That's right. It just doesn't seem to stop. All right, Rhonda, thank you very much. As Rhonda mentioned, downstream in nearby Ada, streets and houses remain dry, but that may not be for very long. The Wild Rice River is expected to reach a record crest there tomorrow. Some people have already left their homes just days after returning following the last floods 2 weeks ago. National Guard troops are racing against the clock to shore up a permanent levee to save the town. What does your homeowner's insurance cover? Well, not knowing the answer to that could cost you thousands. That's a lesson the Walton family is learning the hard way. Their basement wall caved in during last week's thunderstorms, causing as much as $50,000 in damage. But they found out that their State Farm insurance policy will not cover any of their losses.
And I said, what do you mean I'm not covered? We've got homeowners insurance, we've got replacement value, how could this be?
It's a contract between the insurance company and the insured, and it's up to both parties to know what's involved in that contract.
The damage to the Waltons' home was not covered by their policy because it excludes earth movement. State Farm says mounting damage claims from bad weather is a major reason why it's decided to cut its property insurance business in Minnesota. Last year, State Farm collected $152 million in homeowners insurance premiums for Minnesota, but it paid out more than $223 million in claims. To make up the difference, State Farm has stopped selling policies for condos, apartments, and other rentals, and it stopped covering mold damage as well. Arizona firefighters are having their share of bad luck. 2 large wildfires have now merged into one huge blaze covering about 300,000 acres. Our Renee Tessman joins us now with more. Renee?
Well, Brad, not only is it the largest fire ever in Arizona, Governor Jane Hull says it's the most out-of-control wildfire she's ever seen. And now this massive blaze is approaching its first real population center, the town of Show Low, so its 7,700 residents have been forced to evacuate. In all, about 25,000 people from more than a half dozen towns in eastern Arizona have been evacuated as the wildfire continues to grow. It now stretches for 50 miles. Firefighters have saved about 1,000 homes by clearing trees around them and dousing them with water, but they do believe that at least 185 homes have been destroyed. So far, they're not winning the war with the blaze that some are calling the dragon.
We still think fire is going to come into Show Low. We think it's inevitable because unless we put a bulldozer through a bunch of houses and tear up a bunch of pavement, we don't have a good place to stop it.
Well, according to that fire information officer, the wildfire is still 0% contained. He says things won't start looking up until the fire is at least 85% contained. Back to you, Brad.
All right, Renee, thank you very much. Well, the time now is 5:37, and it's time once again to check in with Don Moldenhauer, who is filling in for Jonathan Uhas. Already really steamy out there, huh, Don?
That's right, Brad. Temperatures overnight have only dropped to 77 so far. If we don't get down below 76, we'll actually set a record for a warm, low temperature this morning, so we'll see if that actually happens. But either way, it is uncomfortable out there. Currently, we have 77 degrees. It's mostly cloudy at the airport. Winds are southwest at 9. The dew point is 64, relative humidity 64%, and the air pressure is rising. Here's a look at some other temperatures around the state. You can see the Twin Cities is the hot spot thanks to the urban heat island, but it's still in the 70s elsewhere as well. 73 degrees in Redwood Falls, 70 in Albert Lea, 71 over in Eau Claire, and then some 60s up north. And Duluth now is warmed up. They were at 48 degrees thanks to a lake breeze earlier this morning, but now that obviously has slowed down. They've popped up to 57 degrees. All this heat and humidity is fueling some thunderstorms. We have a few developing on the radar beginning to move on in from the west. You can see the heaviest rain now is heading up into east central Minnesota with those thunderstorms. They're just going to clip the northern part of the metro. And then there's another cell that has moved on in from South Dakota out around Redwood Falls. That'll head toward the Twin Cities and probably roll in here sometime around 7 o'clock or so this morning. So some thunderstorms are in store for this morning. What we're always concerned about is these big complexes. That's what brought us the rain, the heavy rain on Friday. If that happens today, it looks like the best chance for that will likely be over into northwestern Wisconsin, maybe west central Wisconsin a little bit later on this morning. But so far, no signs of anything like that developing. But you can see on the satellite, there are some areas of thunderstorms tracking across the area. They're developing along a warm front. That's going to lift a little bit farther north throughout the day. South of that front, just a steam bath through southern Minnesota and on south into Iowa. The cold front that you see off to the west in the Dakotas, that will not make it here really in any kind of force until probably Wednesday. So the steamy weather is going to continue. Here's a look at the forecast then for today. Expect to see some thunderstorms around here this morning, then hazy, hot, and humid, and I think most of the rest of the day will stay dry. It'll just simply be too hot to get thunderstorms going. 87 to 92 on the high temperatures. Tonight, thunderstorms could redevelop later on. A few could be on the heavy side, low temperatures 70 to 75. And then heading into tomorrow, maybe a degree or two cooler thanks to some thunderstorms that could develop in the afternoon with a high of 88. The front comes through tomorrow night, behind it on Wednesday, 83 for the high and less humid, and that will last through the rest of the week, Brad. So if you can make it through another day or so, sweat it out. It's going to get more comfortable by middle part of the week.
That sounds really good. Thanks a lot, Don. Well, the time now is 5:40, and still to come, are you planning a summer trip to Europe? We'll find out how it could cost a lot more money. But first, here's Dave, planning your trip for the morning commute.
And it's a plan that's a good one so far. No accidents for you, Brad. But we do have some construction news for the south end you need to be aware of. As we head to the break, say good morning to New Brighton.
I'm Roxanne Battle. Thanks for making KARE 11 part of your morning.
Welcome back, everyone. It is 5:43, and if you're headed out to work this morning, you're definitely going to want to hear what this guy has to say. How are you, Dave?
I'm good, Brad. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has. It really has. Always a pleasure seeing old Bradley here. Not just old, good old Bradley.
That's right.
OLE. OLE.
Watch that word.
I tell you what, I got stuck in a little bit of that rain up in the northwest corner this morning, driving in from Albertville. Some impressive lightning and thunder, and just a little bit of moisture up there. So if you're traveling in from the northwest, you may see some wet road surfaces as you head out the door this morning. Here in the Metro-wide loop, right now, as we can see on the cameras that we're looking at, it's remaining dry, including right here into downtown St. Paul. This is 35E as you approach Larpenteur, heading into Spaghetti Junction, but people are out early in St. Paul this morning. There's some enthusiasm for a Monday. And speaking of enthusiasm, there's a nice looking bridge. A few people there, 55 Highway 5. It's the Mendota Bridge. And this is 169 near Bass Lake Road. Some heavier traffic levels. Traffic coming at you is moving southbound through New Hope at the moment. Let's take a look at a map and remind you about a ramp that's closed through this Saturday, 5 a.m. The ramp is 98th Street to South 35W. More appropriately, let's put an arrow that way. 98th Street to South 35W closed now through Saturday. And heavy traffic for your rush hour right now already across the Minnesota River Bridge, and that would be 35W northbound. That is latest, Brad, off to a tranquil start, if I might add, for a Monday.
We like that. At least it's tranquil for now, huh?
For now. That could change and probably will.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Time now is 5:45, and topping the news around the globe, the Israeli army is in attack mode this morning in the Gaza Strip. Israeli helicopter gunships have fired missiles at 2 cars, killing 6 people in the last 2 days. Israeli forces have killed dozens of militant suspects in what it calls targeted killings. Palestinians are calling them assassinations. And detectives in Salt Lake City, Utah are questioning a convict who worked in Elizabeth Smart's home. The convict worked as a handyman in the Smarts' home more than a year ago. Police say they can't rule him out as a suspect in the 14-year-old's disappearance. Well, still ahead on First Edition, the Minnesota Twins gear up for a big series tonight against Chicago. And longtime readers say goodbye to Ann Landers, who died over the weekend. Find out what will happen to her advice column next. But first, here's Don.
Brad, we had another round of heavy rain across central Minnesota overnight. Radar indicating a couple inches of rain may have fallen in the central part of the state. Behind it today, a steam bath. Once again, it's already 77 in the Twin Cities. It is mostly cloudy. Back home later in the day, expect temperatures to be right around 90 degrees.
Welcome back, everyone. Obviously, that was a mistake there. We'll see Tim McNiff in a moment, but we wanted to talk a bit about Ann Landers this morning. The advice columns written by Ann Landers for nearly 5 decades will end with her passing. Ann Landers was the pen name of Esther Lederer, who died Saturday at the age of 83. Her daughter says it was her wish that no writer take over the column. Columns completed by Lederer will run through July 27th. A new column called Ann's Mailbox will be written by 2 of her close associates. And now to sports. The first-place Twins begin a big series tonight at the Dome against the second-place Chicago White Sox. And doctors detail their findings in the sudden death of baseball pitcher Darryl Kyle. Now here's Tim McNiff with more.
Good morning, everybody. The preliminary reports are in on the autopsy report on St. Louis Cardinals pitcher Darryl Kyle, with the probable cause of Kyle's death being blamed on arterial blockage. Dr. Edmund Donahoe of the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office says a final autopsy report could take 4 to 6 weeks because he still wants to study the, quote, drug aspect. But Donahoe gave no indication yesterday that drugs or illegal substances were involved in Kyle's death. Instead, Donahoe says the likely cause of death is an 80 to 90% blockage of a coronary artery. This was the scene last night in Chicago, where with Darryl Kyle's number on the scoreboard, the flags hanging at half-mast, and with Kyle's jersey hanging in their dugout, the Cards resumed their series with the Cubs. Jamin Simon-Tachi starts on the mound in place of Kyle and surrenders this early homer to Chicago's Alex Gonzalez as the Cubs go on to beat Kyle's Cards 8-3. Minnesota Twins finishing up their road trip in Philly. Corey Koski just 2 for 29 on the road, but he gets all this 4th-inning offering from Phil starter Randy Wolf. It's Koski's 7th home run, and it gives the Twins a 1-0 advantage. Johan Santana started strong, but after a couple of 4th-inning walks, Scott Rowland singles to bring in Bobby Abreu and tie the ball game at 1-1. That brings Tony Fiore out of the bullpen, and Fiore fans Pat Burrell with the bases loaded, getting the Twins out of a huge jam. Top of the 6th, Dustin Moore connects off Wolf. Like Koski, Moore crushes it. It's Dustin's 6th, and the solo shot puts the Twins back in front 2-1. Fiore pitches 3 innings of shutout ball, and Torrey Hunter, who enters the game late, finishes the Phillies with his team-leading 17th home run. The 3-run shot providing the final margin in a 5-1 Twins victory. The Twins taking 2 of 3 in Philly and 5 of 9 on the road against National League competition. The Twins are back at home. They're going to open up a 7-game homestand with a big 4-game series against the White Sox. The Twins leading the White Sox by 6 games in the AL Central. We'll have more on that tonight at 6 and again at 10 o'clock. Right now, however, here's a look at the rest of yesterday's scores.
Well, at least one boat's rocking early this morning. Take a look at that. There's someone actually rowing on the Mississippi this morning. This is our St. Paul's sky cam. But that's a nice wake from the barge to row through. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to First Edition. It is 5:54, and time to check in with Don Moldenhauer, who's filling in for Jonathan Uhas. And boy, this is no way to start the week, is it?
It's very muggy out there. It's going to be that way for a couple days, and then we'll see temperatures cool down. But today and tomorrow, some thunderstorms in the forecast. Today, they're going to be in the morning. I think at least most of them are. Here's a look at live Doppler 11. You can see the line of thunderstorms from Hinckley right on down through about Big Lake and then back off to the southwest, and then some more just to the southwest of Wilmer. So a couple hours here of showers and thunderstorms to move through the metro. Around the state today, the best chance for rain will be up to the north and east of the Twin Cities, 80 in Rice Lake on the other side of the warm front.
Wow. You know, there's a song, sometimes you don't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. Well, we don't need these temperatures. No, we don't need this rain.
No more rain. No, we're done with that.
I'm confused.
I'm not. I know what you mean.
Dave, you're the music expert. Why don't you help me out?
Okay, that was the Hughes Corporation that sang Rock the Boat. All right?
He's got that part.
I just thought you did the Beatles thing.
Yeah, well, I know other stuff too, sometimes. Not always. I know that we're not rocking the boat in the traffic department today. We have a wonderful start to your rush hour, no accidents. And look at these levels, 94 at Cedar Riverside. Light, that's nice to see. A little bit heavier as you travel between the crosstown and downtown on 35W northbound. As we take a look at that map, we show you there. Right now, it's about a 5 to 6 minute drive. Enjoy that now while it lasts if you're heading out the door. Right now, that is.
Right now.
Right now.
All right, well, we'll check back with you later.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, sir. Topping the news this morning, hundreds of residents in northwest Minnesota faced the worst flooding in the city's history. 12 inches of rain fell in just over 12 hours over the weekend in Mahnomen, and more continue to fall overnight. High waters have already damaged more than 100 homes. That city is still recovering from flooding from the Wild Rice River 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, downstream in the town of Ada, people are bracing for the worst there. The Wild Rice River is expected to reach more than 20 feet tomorrow. That's nearly 9.5 feet above flood stage. And to a place that actually needs rain, firefighters in eastern Arizona are up against a blaze that has now reached more than 50 miles wide and is threatening the entire town of Show Low. Is Osama bin Laden alive and well and planning even more attacks? With that and much more, we now send you to Washington, D.C. and USA Today's Lauren Ashburn. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Brad. U.S. officials tell USA Today al-Qaeda fighters have reassembled and are planning new attacks against the West. We're told as many as 1,000 al-Qaeda and Taliban fighters have crossed from Afghanistan into Pakistan's tribal areas since November, despite U.S.-led raids to capture them. As for Osama bin Laden, well, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee tells us he might be in western Pakistan. An al-Qaeda spokesman says bin Laden will soon make another television appearance. Lawmakers from both political parties tell USA Today they want President Bush to seek congressional approval before deciding on military action against Iraq. Of the 8 congressmen who received the president's daily intelligence briefing, all but one have expressed reservations about an early attack on Iraq. Murdered journalist Daniel Pearl is being remembered with At Home in the World, a collection of his serious and whimsical articles from the Wall Street Journal. His parents released the book. It includes a foreword by Pearl's widow, Mary Ann, who writes, "Danny died holding only a pen. They stole his life, but were unable to steal his soul." Forget about getting a great deal in Europe this summer. As the euro continues to climb, it takes more dollars to buy euros. So the cost of food, hotels, and rental cars is going up for the more than 5 million Americans traveling there this summer.
May I serve the dessert, monsieur?
Yogurt?
Maybe you've seen this commercial. A mom dressed as a French maid serving her husband yogurt, then caught by their daughter. Well, we've learned it's just one of 5 ads honored for portraying marriage as fun, romantic, and cool. The awards will be handed out next month by the Coalition for Marriage, Family, and Couples Education. Brad?
I know that commercial is cool.
It's so funny, isn't it?
One of my favorites. Thanks a lot, Lauren.
Sure.
Well, coming up on Sunrise, we're going to talk about bond basics. Our 2-part series on bonds continues with Dan Amon from Dane Rauscher today. He'll explain bond ladders and how to take the guesswork out of interest rates. Plus, we'll tell you about a great event in St. Paul that you can attend where all the money will help support buying books for the school district. Those stories and much more coming up on Sunrise. And we do appreciate you being with us this morning. If you're headed out, have a nice day. If not, stick around because Sunrise begins right now.
This is KARE 11 News Sunrise.